sure they're 3 dimensions away from Alien Romulus being called Alien Returns. I'm your host 3D Jake, and today we're looking at Alien Romulus, released in 2024. Alien Romulus is a sequel slash prequel to, it's a sequel to Alien, but a prequel to Aliens. The movie is essentially a set between Alien and Aliens, and is kind of like a requel in a way, where it basically has new characters and doesn't really touch upon the old movies or the new movies, and just essentially goes in its own direction. This movie, this time around, is directed by Fredo Alvarez, the one who directed Evil Dead 2013 and Don't Breathe 2. The movie, Fredo Alvarez directed this, and he wrote it with his co-writer of Evil Dead and Don't Breathe, Rodrigo Sadoros. And the movie is based on the characters, of course, created by Dan O'Brien and Ronald Shust. The movie is once again produced by Ridley Scott, who directed Prometheus and Alien Covenant and the original Alien. And the movie stars Kaylee Spinning, David Johnson, Archie Renix, Isabella Merce, Spike Firm, Ali Wu, with a special appearance by Ian Holmes. The movie is essentially set like in the Weyland-Yutani. It's set you see basically the aftermath of Alien of Sigourney Weaver in space. Except she's not there, except the space is just essentially, it's just the destruction of the Nostromo that Sigourney Weaver destroyed. And then, of course, you see the Weyland-Yutani Corporation, where they take the company and then they basically make more xenomorph on the Romulus space station. And, of course, when these scrappers who are just trying to get to another planet, and they're basically trying to scrap so that way they can get to another planet, they come across the space station, the Romulus space station, and discover that the aliens are there. And then chaos and face-hugging ensures. I will say, I really enjoyed this movie. This movie, I was like, they were hyping it up. I mean, I love seeing the poster of just Ali Wu's character of getting a face hugger on her, and especially in the trailer, they're trying to make this is a horror film. This is not a action movie. This isn't like Prometheus or Aliens. This is a straight up horror film, even showing gore in this movie. And I will say, this movie is very gory, and if I would not recommend taking kids to see this movie, if you are going to see this movie, this is not like Alien versus Predator, where it's more of an action film with some scary, gory moments. This is a straight up horror film. I really say, I went and seen this movie, and I will say, from the first 10 minutes of the movie, I will say that, once they get to the space station and stuff, that's when the gore really starts. The first 10 minutes of the movie is essentially, not really recapping Alien, but just, picking up after Alien left off, and basically showing, okay, how do they get another alien, And then we get to introduce our new characters of this movie, and I really enjoyed the new characters of the movie. I like how she's got, an android with her, and the android, of course, is just keeps trying to make puns in the movie. It kind of reminded me a little bit of Ghostbusters Afterlife, where the girl just keeps trying to make these dad jokes in a way. And it kind of is fun in a way, where this android just almost feels like a child, wonder, or someone with autism in a way. And I enjoyed that aspect of it. And then, of course, I will say, once they get to the space station, you kind of figure, okay, there's an alien on board and they're going to kill him. And there was a lot of twists and turns I did not expect in the movie. I do like a lot of things in the movie, but I also do dislike some things in the movie. I will say the things I liked in the movie was introducing new characters, introducing us to this world, because they've never experienced this horror in this world. And we've experienced this horror several times. Sometimes for the bad, sometimes for the good. And I say, I'm a huge Prometheus fan, and that's my favorite one next to Alien and Aliens. And I will say, if you're a fan of Aliens, Prometheus, Alien Covenant, I would even say somewhat of Alien 3 even, you would like this movie. If you do not like those movies, if you only like Alien, you will like this movie. If you like Aliens, if you like Alien Resurrection, you probably won't like this movie. You might, I don't know. I will say, this movie does take some ideas from the original drafts of Alien 3 of humans turning into aliens, because this idea does is the idea of where there is this from, if you've seen Prometheus, they have this black goo that the engineers made, and turns out, spoilers if you haven't seen the movie, the engineers of course the Weyland-Yutani Corporation took the DNA from the original xenomorph from the Ridley Scott Alien film, and they made they drained the black goo, and they basically are trying to see if they because Mr. Weyland, of course, played by Guy Pearce in the original Prometheus and Alien Covenant, was searching for that cure to cure his, so he could live longer. Well, apparently, they think they've figured it out and they tested on rats and everything, and apparently it seems to work. Well, it turns out it doesn't, and it turns out it turns you into a monster. And so, and there's of course a scene in the movie where a pregnant woman who gets impaled by one of the xenomorphs is essentially thinks she's dying, and so instead of she thinks, well, the android gives her a lifespan where she can actually survive this. Well, she's like, well, I'm just too much in pain, so she gives herself the shot, and of course she has a hybrid baby of a engineer slash xenomorph, a Z-engineer, I call it, where she essentially, this thing basically is a xeno engineer, a alieneer, we were just joking about this on a podcast I do with Ryan Cam and Matt Wyatt. We were joking about it's basically like a xenomorph engineer, a xenoengineer, and we were basically just this thing essentially comes out of the woman's egg sac and then basically gets bigger by breastfeeding on her, by sucking her tit dry. And I'm like, what the fuck, and it's just a messed up scene, and gets bigger, and it's like if an engineer fucked a xenomorph, and that was the hybrid, and it's all white too. It's not even black like the xenomorph. It's like, looks like an engineer, and I think that was kind of the idea. The movie does have moments like that, like there's a scene with the face huggers where they're just like face huggers everywhere trying to get in their mouths and everything, and chest bursters and all that stuff. And I will say the idea of like the chest burster where she has like a see-through, she can see the chest burster busting through her, that is a cool idea concept. I like that aspect. Then there are scenes like, where they get gross, like when those engineers trying to breastfeed. I thought that was gross. And then there are scenes like, where you see, like there's a lot of callbacks in this movie. For instance, there's callbacks to Alien. Like the third act is basically Alien. If you've seen the Alien, it's basically sometimes even comes off as a remake of Alien. And a lot of people pointed that out. Yes, the movie feels like, okay, it's the exact same thing. The ship's crashing, and she has to get into the escape pod, and they get into the escape ship, and then, of course, the alien, this woman, of course, the alien's on there, and then they have to fight the alien, get it out. She puts a spacesuit on and kills the alien and getting it out. That is the exact same thing that happens in this movie. The only difference is, instead of an alien xenomorph, it's an engineer. And so that's what happens. And then, of course, you have the cliche, like whenever, they're going through, they see a hive, just like in Aliens. And there's even callback lines where it says, "Get away from her, you bitch," And I'm just like, okay. And there's even a cameo. It's a reoccurring role. I would say it's a small role, but it's not a cameo. Where it played by Ian Holmes, who passed away back in 2020. And this character is a CGI hybrid, like an animatronic / CGI, with an actor doing the voice of Ian Holmes and his likeness being used, where he basically is playing Rook, which is another person who's basically, it's Ash, but it's Rook, where this is basically another model that looks like Ash, who's using them for evil intentions, where they can steal the goo from Prometheus, and they could, bring it to a Weyland-Yutani station. And it's like, I can save your life if you help me, and everything. And, he gives them the whole backstory of the thing and everything. And I like that aspect. That, to me, I love. I love that aspect. But then when it feels like they're trying to remake Alien and Aliens by them going down there, and you have her like she's Sigourney Weaver, where she's going down there shooting all these things, then they have to float in zero gravity, and some stuff I just felt like was impractical. Like the things I felt was like, okay, she's sitting there floating around with like acid, and then like, okay, that sounds dumb. That's dumb. And then, of course, there's like a scene where she falls off of an elevator, like the gravity kicks and she falls, and then Xeno grabs her with its tail, and I'm like, wouldn't that kill her? It felt like just like spurred the moment things. And then there's a scene where there's a woman's chest bursting, and the ship's flying everywhere, and then somehow it mysteriously, somehow safely gets into the docking bay, and they're all fine. And I'm like, that is such bullshit, But stuff like that is what irked me. But then there are things I really like. I think this movie, I would really rewatch this movie again. I think it's a fun time at the movies. Is it my favorite Alien? No, I would still say I think Prometheus, Alien, and Aliens are better. But I would still say it's in my top 4. And I really like this movie, and I would definitely watch it again. I cannot wait to own it on 4K. If I had to give this movie a score, I would give it a solid B+. Thank you so much.
Are you sure you want to do this?